So in July, we'll have a new planning council coming in. So that should be exciting. I think everything is coming to fruition now. And so next year will be, I think, a year of growth and progress. So looking forward to that. Just so everyone knows as well, this is my last council as chair, or last planning council meeting as chair, and I will be rolling off the planning council. So I have enjoyed this process, and I really appreciate every single one of you that have stuck through a really challenging year and participated and been here passionately and productively. So as we go into the next fiscal year, I just encourage you all to keep that in mind. Keep in mind what is our shared commitment to the community and our shared passion for making sure that everybody has a place to live. Everybody deserves that, and that we as a community are working together to achieve that. So I think this next year is going to be one of great growth and opportunity. I'm really excited to see what happens, and so I'm leaving you all with that thought, and excited to have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the state of our community, the report, and the recommendations for what's to come. So with that, I will turn it over to Jay and Renee for the MHID report.
Okay.
Oh, Jay and April, sorry.
Let's let April go. Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody, and hope everyone had a safe adventure in parking and getting up here today. But I feel like this is a great venue for us to be able to meet as a body and be able to discuss and have a little more room, a little more elbow room besides the quarters that we were in. So thank you for being here. We are in the midst of working on several different things at Homeless Impact Division. One of those is hiring. We have some new spots being filled as we speak, and we are also looking at the Encampment housing workshop review that we have had underway, and we're looking at spearheaded teams. Part of the subcommittees are looking at that. Keith from Homeless Impact Division, our lead outreach worker, is working on getting those teams together to look at how we best look at how we house people out of the encampment. So it's a very interesting conversation, and we are moving forward with that. We've had some interesting conversations. I'll go ahead and jump in front of it and talk about July 1st and that worry. Metro Homeless, we have met several times as a task force, came up with a few ideas, but we felt like it was driving more towards sheltering. So that task force was disbanded, and we will reconvene that probably in a smaller group and allow that to be more focused once MHID and I have taken the lead on that in talking to Metro Police Chief, the DA, and my next conversations will be with TDOT and the Highway Patrol to talk about what that looks like and how we're going to mitigate that. Not the law itself, because I don't write law, but how are we going to respond if something like that were to come up acutely, in a minute, right? So we're working through those and talking about advance notice and how we are going to come together as a community to make those things happen so that we are doing what we were sworn to do and volunteered to do and take care of those folks that are in most need and vulnerable in our community, okay? I know that was later on the agenda, but I want to go ahead and cover it now so we could buy time for any questions later on. Let's see what else is on my notes here. The strategic plan refresh next meeting is June 21st. The HUD guidance for HMIS capacity building, ESG, housing first, and budget guidance for the $50 million investment, along with Built for Zero work as well. We're conducting ESG CV fund program evaluations and governance restructure recommendations from HUD. Working with HUD on best practices, possible relocation from other communities will have until June of 2024. The mayor's office housing first funding initiative, $50 million that's historic investment. So 25 million of that, and you've all saw the breakdown. I'll let Stacy and her team explain that in more in detail about how that breakout of that money and how we're going to use it and suggested use in our community. And then reviewing high performance communities like Milwaukee, using those best practices reference points on how they mitigated homelessness within their creative ways of, like in Milwaukee, they're down to 17 people. I think they were in the thousands at one point, and now they're down to 17. So underway with the study and those best practices. Family emergency shelter crisis due to decreased space and capacity for families. Shelter committee and key stakeholders are devising an emergency plan to address this need. We're in conversations with all of our community partners and with Vice Mayor Schulman in that, and Kathy Jennings about how we're going to mitigate that when it comes up in an emergency basis. And with that, in closing, I want to say thank you to my staff for the work that they do day in, day out. Every day, outreach is going out. Every day, HMI, CE, and landlord engagement are going and doing that. But most of all, I want to say thank you to our community. I think as individuals, we really do a great job at providing for people. I feel that passion and our conviction as humans goes towards those humans in need, and I believe each individual in this group has that passion, and I'm proud to be able to serve alongside you to provide that critical need. Together, as a collective group, I feel like we're full of potential and promise. I feel like the next few months are going to show that. I feel that $50 million that's going to be received can be put in direct response to homelessness immediately. And I feel that the potential of this group of people can make homelessness like Milwaukee and run from 1,000, 2,000 to 17. But even one is too many. But if we get down to 17, we know we're doing something right together as a group. So thank you for your time, and I will turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Jay. Any questions for Jay? Fantastic. Okay, so we've messed with the agenda flow, so now we're going to do some administrative items that we usually do at the beginning. So I will go ahead and call roll, and then just give everybody a heads up that this is our opportunity to also review the minutes from the last meeting and just make sure there are no questions. So I'm going to go and get started. Call roll, let me know if you're present and if there are any conflicts of interest. So Donna DeStefano. Thank you, Donna. Melanie Lane. Did not see Melanie. Alex Smith. Beth Shin. Thanks, Beth. Catherine Knowles. Thanks, Catherine. Dawn Diener. Thank you guys for speaking up. Deanna Allen Robb. Hey, Deanna. Come on in. Jaha Martin, I know couldn't attend today. Jason Starling. Carrie Gornick. Thanks, Carrie. Mary Catherine Rand. Thank you. Sheila Decker. Thanks, Sheila. Tracy Pekovich. Freddie O'Connell. Let's see, Freddie today. Aaron Evans. Sandra Sepulveda. Will Connolly. Paula Foster, couldn't make it today. Laura Bermudez, that's me, present, no conflicts of interest. Vicki Batcher. Thanks. Wendell Seagroves. Thanks, Wendell. Jeff Gibson, couldn't make it today either. Charlie Strobel. Tom Turner.
Present.
Thanks, Tom. All right, and then we've got Renee Pratt. Treva Gilligan. Hey, Treva. And Ginger as well. I see you in the back. Thank you, Ginger. Okay, fantastic. I'm also going to take the time now to read the list of names of Nashvillians who have passed away this month unhoused. James McKissick, Ronnie Teasley, Gary Maurice Palmer, and William Branch. Ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, if everybody can find the minutes from last month's meeting, just take a quick look if you haven't already. And if anybody has any questions or any edits or updates that need to be made, just let us know. Give you guys like, I don't know, 2 minutes to review. Any questions on the minutes? Anything that we need to make edits on? Excellent. We'll just move right along. We are running on time for now. So, all right. So we've got a couple updates as usual, and then we'll get into the study of homelessness and affordable housing report. And then wrap with a couple additional board matters and committee updates. So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah for our HMIS monthly update. And I think, Hannah, you can use that table mic right there. Thank you.
Administration table.
The admin table.
Here it comes, Hannah. She's turning you on.
Try it now.
Hello.
Go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah. Last time I talked to you about coordinated entry. Today I'm coming to you as the new HMIS manager. So hello. Yay. So this is our monthly report that we usually have. There's a couple typos, so I apologize for that. But I know we have a lot to get through today, so I'm just going to highlight that in May 2022, 135 people moved into permanent housing from homelessness, and that our future monthly reports will also be including exit destinations, so the type of housing that people have moved into, vouchers, rapid rehousing, family and friends, etc. And then I look forward to incorporating more different kinds of data into these meetings so that it can help you all become data-driven decision makers. So, yeah, any questions on the report?
Questions for Hannah? Excellent. All right. We have an encampment housing workshop review. Jay, is that, you already covered all that? All right. Jay got ahead of himself. Yep. Perfect. Any questions on the encampment housing workshop and next steps from the group? All right. Perfect. Ginger, let me see if I can figure out.
Where are you?
Try it now.
Yeah, she got it.
Look at you.
Vice Mayor Schulman may have some competition. Madam Chair and members and folks in the audience here, I'll kind of stand sideways. How about that? So it'll make it a little easier. So report from the mayor's office, pretty quick and simple. Many of you were at the groundbreaking week before last for the 90 units of supportive housing. We're really excited to get that started. We know that it's needed. We've been waiting a while for it. We're very excited about that opportunity. That's probably the most important thing that I have to update you on. The other thing that we're going to do, I know later on your agenda, is talking about reappointments, and as terms come up, the mayor's office is going to wait to make their appointments for two reasons. One, we want to make sure we fully digest this report and ensure the mayor makes appointments that are in line with the recommendations of the HPC. We also want to give the opportunity for the mayor to meet with his nominees to make sure that they understand the recommendations and really agree with that. And that's going to take a little bit of time. So we're going to wait on those appointments, and just wanted to let you know on that. But it's not that we don't have folks in mind. We just want to make sure, in line of the recommendations, that we get the right folks to move us forward. And that's really all I have for the update.
All right, Carrie, hang on. There you go.
Ginger, what's the timeline for the mayor to make his recommendations?
You're going to have to be quick on that.
Oh, man, hang on. No. There we go.
Makes you appreciate what the vice mayor has to do for like 6 hours every other Tuesday. So part of the discussion we've been having is for the appointments and legislation that might implement some of the recommendations. What is the right timeline? Some of the internal conversations yesterday are, if we wait for example, legislation to go through, changing the makeup of the HPC, that would take a few months, right? So I think we're still in conversations. Some of that decision will also be the conversation on the reappointments today. And does the nominating committee want to move forward with their appointments, or do they also want to take some time and review the recommendations as we look at how we're going to reform the HPC? I know that wasn't a real direct answer, but I think we're looking at a few months in order to make sure we're in line with whatever legislatively in this body occurs and as we move forward.
I mean, can I? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
I would
sure.
just like to say I'd like to put an asterisk on if we're going to reform the that report is not given.
Carrie, sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said thank you, and I would like to put an asterisk on. He said when the HPC is reformed, and I said if the HPC is reformed.
Sure.
Because this report is not necessarily going to be implemented.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Beth.
We have trouble getting quorums now, and if we have a bunch of empty seats, that's going to be worse. So
So one of the things we did this month was take a really critical look at the bylaws and run it by legal, and it is about seated members So the quorum is based on actually filled seats versus total seats, yeah.
And Madam Chair.
I wish I had known that like 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Madam Chair, if I might, to your point, is some of the conversations we were having yesterday, and I don't know if Derek is ready to speak to this from Metro Legal or not, but we were looking at the bylaws, and there is an opportunity to extend. So for example, this body could make a decision to extend folks' terms until there is, let's say,
Ginger,
We'll get to
it's
that
actually
later.
the COC, and I think let's pause on that conversation.
Okay. I'll just say there are a variety of options. How about that?
Okay, any other questions for Ginger? Okay, awesome. Okay, Angie, is Angie here today? We have been up, oh, there you are. Hey, Angie, hang on, let me figure this out. All right, you should be good.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. I have a few updates from the Housing Division of Planning. Last week, we launched a brand new tool, a mixed income payment in lieu of tax program. We're really excited about this because it's intended to create affordability in projects where we otherwise would not get it. And what's really exciting is that the more attractive options for the abatement requires the developer to have a percent of units at or below 50% of the area median income, or a greater majority at 75%, because we understand that in Davidson County, our AMI is not equivalent to the MSA AMI, so we wanted to make sure that we are targeting affordability at what's really needed in Davidson County. So we're taking applications. We have a window open from developers through July 30th, and we look forward to then tracking in the fall. We expect every year, because we do have a $3 million cap on the abatements that we can approve, that we can get at least 300 new units out of this that don't already exist. So we're super excited about that. I think Ginger's given an update previously, and I believe it was asked of Council Lady Evans last night. I am working within Metro on a review of publicly owned property, and it's not just vacant land, but other assets as well. And then once we get that comprehensive list, it's still going to be a process to look at and coordinate with other entities with what's on their portfolio for long-term use. I would like to request of the chair and the HPC to actually have a formal item on an agenda either in July or August, just to be able to talk through what the process is for utilizing Metro-owned property, just so that we all have an understanding it's how that works. But we are very excited to get a lot of developers into Nashville that or more people interested in how they can help and using Metro-owned property. So that's something that we need to be moving on quickly. And then finally, we closed the application round for the Barnes Fund yesterday. We made $20 million available. That was approved by the COVID Oversight Committee and Council last year. And we had a total request of around $25 million. So unfortunately, we can't fund everything. The total ask for new units is well over 900. So we expect to go to the Metro Trust Fund Commission for their review and approval at their July 14th meeting. And so sometime after that, we'll be able to let you all know the projects that have been recommended for funding. They'll officially move through council sometime in August. So thank you for the opportunity to provide an update.
Thank you, Angie. Really excited about all the progress you guys are making. Any questions for Angie? All right, Tom, go for it.
Is there funding in place to for the 900 units in total?
No, we made 20 million available. The total ask is 25 million, and so not all of those units will be funded.
25 or 900 applicants.
900 units totally proposed to be created. We won't. We do expect a high number, though, and the leverage that we're getting is 10 to 1, so we do see that we're still going to be up, I anticipate, well over 800.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Question that's actually for you that I should have asked earlier. If you are no longer our chair as of the end of today, who is our leadership for next meeting, since I don't see that on our agenda?
I don't quite understand that process yet either. We've got to work through the details to figure out how that continues over, because technically the executive committee stays in place until the next meeting in which it's voted for a new executive committee. So with me rolling off, I think it's, Deanna, Will, and Tom will continue on as executive committee until a new one's voted in.
Got it.
Or not Deanna, I'm sorry.
You mean Jaha.
Jaha. She's not here, so
Should that, I know you said you're figuring out all the details. Should that change? Can you all just email us so we know what's happening there?
yes.
Thank you.
I will, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? For sure. Okay. All right, so we have one more item to talk about, and I'm going to turn it over to Vicki to just provide an update on where we are with the task force that was voted in last month. I think there's been a lot of progress and general understanding of the current environment. So Vicki, go ahead. And
I like how you worded that. I want to make a motion or instead have a non-governmental discussion that would be made open to the public once a month. We want input. Having a smaller group, I would move for separate. So two motions: ban the task force, and yes.
Pick up your microphone, please, because the people in the back probably can't hear you. Thank you, Vicki.
So I'm going for two motions. First, to disband the task force, and then to have a non-governmental discussion group, okay, to look at the different areas that we can help improve during this, I guess, I don't want to call it a transition from the encampments to shelter, because we don't have enough shelter beds. We need to locate more shelter beds. And that's what I want this ad hoc, well, let me read from this thing here. That's what I'd like this, an ad hoc to be able to do. An informal ad hoc committee will not replicate the efforts of the shelter committee or the COC and the respective work of those groups to expand shelter and housing capacity. So we want to look at how we can support local nonprofits with shelter and what recommendations we can make as a group to improve the shelters.
And my understanding, April, you want to speak to that? Hang on, April. Okay, I think you've got the admin time.
Thank you. So I think part of the issue with the original task force that was developed from this HPC last month was part of the group thought that they were there for shelter committee and forming that body of work. Part of the group thought that they were there to form policy to sue the state for the bill. And then some thought they were there for housing support for encampment. So I think that that's why that task force probably did not work, but shelter committee was really clear on there is a shelter committee that is designed to address those needs. So, and I think as far as pulling, definitely disbanding the task force, because it seems like there's not a unified goal at this point that's been identified, but also as far as like having a separate meeting, ad hoc meeting, it would not speak into this body of work and would not be able to kind of guide this body of work.
I have a second to disband the task force or questions?
Sorry, I'm not used to them. Making the motion to disband the task force.
I second it.
Okay, great. A second from Carrie. Any other questions or discussions about the motion? Nope. Okay. We can just do a raise of hands. So all in favor to disband the task force? All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. One abstention. Oh, two abstentions. I think we have passed the motion to disband the task force. So I believe, in April, do you want to speak to kind of next steps in that space?
I think Jay's survey spoke to it a little bit earlier in his talking points that there's meetings that are being held. I think the initial task force was designed to address the state bill. So there are meetings that's being held within Metro leadership, different departments, across different departments to decide on how Metro is going to proceed. We can definitely bring back comments and updates regularly to this group.
Yeah, I think that would be the request that I would make is, next meeting and subsequent, just continue to keep this body up to date. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, then let's not delay the inevitable any longer. We have Stacy and her team here and on the phone to provide an overview of the Nashville study of homelessness and affordable housing. So thank you all for being here today. And Stacy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
I'm actually going to
Oh, hang on. Got to figure out which one is which.
Is it work? And online we have Sam Simbaris and Greg Shin. So we have actually basically the full team that worked on the report.
See if it's working now.
Mine's working.
Oh, it's working.
You want to try mine?
Go on.
Oh, good morning, everyone. As Stacy said, I'm Andronika Morris, Executive Director of Housing NOLA, and we're the team that is working to help Nashville study homelessness and affordable housing. And some of you have been here exactly and actually have talked to many of us, many of the team members, Stacy on the ground here, about this report. So some of you know about it already, but we're here to speak directly to the council and answer any of your questions. We have the schedule set up right now where the presentation is going to take about 45 minutes, and then we've got 30 minutes for Q&A with you. But you should feel free if there's a question that you have in that moment so that you don't have to forget about it. And we're going to coordinate between myself, Stacy, Sam, and Greg on parts of the presentation. And since Sam only has an hour, that's another reason why we want to make sure that if you have any questions about specific parts of the presentation, that you ask them at that point, because Sam is only going to be able to be with us for an hour. And so you'll see Sam and Greg here on WebEx. We'll pull them up when they're speaking, so you'll actually be able to see them. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We want to just a review of how we're doing the presentation, the scope of the report, strengths, areas for improvement, the data-driven recommendations, and this is also online as well. So the phase one's report, the summary is, there's real need for change here in Nashville, and that's something that this group knows very well. And again, we've talked to a lot of you, not all of you. We hope to make sure that we talk to everyone. because we're going to be here for 2 years. And so this was a very quick report, a 12-week turnaround to do this initial report because of the crisis. And it was something that was reflected by the chair earlier when we took the moment of silence to reflect on the number of unhoused people who have passed away here in Nashville. Those are extraordinary statistics where you've seen an increase in the number of deaths over the last few years, going from 18 deaths in 2016 to 2021, 203. So this is an extraordinary crisis, and Nashville is to be commended for deciding to take a hard look at this issue and to act. And we want to reassure everyone that while this initial speed was solely dependent upon the emergency nature of the crisis. And as I mentioned, we intend to speak to all of you and engage with everyone and an expanded community as well, because there are people who are part of this situation who are not participating for a variety of reasons. And in order for Nashville to truly be successful, our philosophy as consultants, we're slightly different than your average consultant if you've ever worked with a consultant before. I find not all of them necessarily want to help you solve the problem. They want to be able to come back. We would like to come back and visit you and check in on your success. And our strategy is to help Nashville design and set up a program and a homelessness and housing program that is run by you and that reflects the needs of your community and is accountable to the people of Nashville, period. And so that is what we're going to work with you on over the next 20 months. So so we've talked about, and one of the things that we're recommending is a housing first approach. And we're going to get Sam to talk about that in a bit. This is a revolutionary process, a philosophy, because it recognizes that you have to use housing as the foundation before you can do anything else. We often do this in a backwards way, not just with the homeless, but also in the unhoused, but also people who are housing insecure, who are living in subsidized housing. We tell them that they have to clear these barriers and hurdles, and basically they have to prove themselves worthy in order to get housing. They just need to work a little harder and demonstrate that they are ready, when we know that unfortunately there are so many barriers to their success, and continuing to traumatize them by allowing them to remain housing insecure doesn't help them achieve success. We see it when we talk about education reform, when we talk about something as simple as helping people to register to vote. Right? These are all healthcare reform, healthcare, getting access to good healthcare. All of these things are dependent upon safe, decent housing that is affordable, sustainable, and healthy. And so that is what we're hoping to help Nashville design for itself, and again, hold the policymakers and your elected officials who are responsible for a lot of the funding, but also how do you integrate your private sector into this in a way that's thoughtful and impactful. So again, some of these are things that you all know about who is homeless in Nashville. And as of your point in time count from earlier this year, it's about 1,900 folks experiencing homelessness. The preliminary data shows that while the numbers have increased for 2022, that's for the chronically homeless numbers are not changing, and that is another cause for concern. You normally would see chronically homeless go down, and it's also something that impacts your ability to secure needed funding from HUD, because HUD wants to prioritize the chronically homeless, and Nashville's numbers staying stubbornly consistent mean that you're missing out on dollars that could be used to invest in and create more housing opportunities, and as we heard earlier, the supportive services necessary to make people successful, right? We say housing first, we don't mean housing only. right? We mean the housing plus the wraparound services to ensure success. This is, and again, one of the things that we have looked at is we are not from Nashville, but we are from the South, and we know that while we have a really great example in Milwaukee, we also want to make sure that we're looking at this from a regional context. And while we can't claim success, the kind of success that Milwaukee has in places like New Orleans and Houston, those folks have actually been able to secure more funding because they have been able to get their chronic homelessness down. And when you look at a city like New Orleans, that is about 40% the size of Nashville, that we are getting about 5 times the money that you all are getting here in Nashville, when you have just as big a need but a bigger city, you all have to look at that hard and figure out how you can make some changes to secure those additional dollars. Again, when we talk about homelessness, it is our philosophy that homelessness and housing are integrally linked, and that being unhoused is the most extreme expression of a housing insecurity problem, a housing crisis, right? And if you have more affordable housing combined with wraparound services, that's another way of addressing, particularly for people who are, homeless, that they're not chronically homeless, right? People who come into the system and they've been evicted, they are, and families, the tremendous work that you all have been doing with families here is going to be helped by increasing more affordable housing and making it more diverse and having different options. And so when you look at your renter cost burden, that's people who live in Nashville spending more than 30% of their gross income on their total housing costs. 45% of your renters are cost burden. 20% of your renters are severely cost burden, spending more than half their gross, right? So a third of your gross is almost half your take home. Half of your gross means that you're leaving everything on the table. And you forgive us, this presentation was designed for multiple audiences. We know most of you know a lot of these stats and figures, but we did want to kind of reinforce it, particularly if there are any lay people in the audience. And then when you look at the income, obviously this is going to be focused on low-income bands, folks who are making and earning not a lot of money, but you're seeing, a troubling stat of where you got your middle class, working class folks, 40% of those folks being severely cost burdened, 66% of lower middle class folks making between $35,000 and $50,000 a year, 66% of renters making between $35,000 and almost $50,000 a year being cost burdened. That's a severe problem, right? That also means that housing units that are created or that could be available for lower income folks are being dominated by higher income folks, not high income, but higher income folks, working class folks who, again, are going to be pushing into those units that could go for the most vulnerable. And again, we're talking about everyone from people with disabilities, the unhoused, veterans, LGBTQ plus community members. So there are a number of folks who could use these units, but they're competing with folks who are actually, not normally considered housing insecure, and because that's how severe your crisis is. And Nashville isn't any different from any other part of the country, unfortunately, when it comes to this. There's a couple places where it's a little different from, say, like a Detroit and a New Orleans, but this is happening in Austin, this is happening in Atlanta, it's happening in Seattle, San Francisco, Oakland, right? But again, Nashville has decided to act, and we are recommending that Nashville take on a housing first approach in this component as well. So again, there's a lot of strengths. Already, the Nashville COC has, again, committed, passionate people who want to see this problem addressed. There's communication and collaboration between your housing authority and the Homeless Impact Division, to the extraordinary point where your housing authority is allocating 18 housing choice vouchers each month to help help the unhoused and make those available. That is extraordinary that you all have that here. And it's something you are to be commended for, and it's something that you need to keep in mind. And it also connects back to the earlier point, because you can't use those vouchers because of the housing crisis, right? They're going underutilized, that we need to be talking about it. That's why we can't talk about this in segments and silos. It has to be a complete system. There are areas for improvement. Again, resources not being targeted to long-term homelessness. We talked about that. Chronic homelessness not being a priority, not seeing significant improvements in those areas is costing you all money. It's costing you all resources. And so we are recommending that you make some shifts there. Other areas for improvement, it's not the way everything's been set up is not organized for effective governance. The strategic plan is too broad. There are the service sites that you already have high barriers. They don't follow the housing first approach. We need to be talking about creating low barrier housing solutions, something that you all just talked about today, and making sure that people also get supportive services so that they can be successful. Connecting with mental health services and resources, and securing the money to pay for all of this. Oops, there we go. Wait. Yeah, we talked about, there we go. Wait a minute. There we go, all right. We also talk about getting into the details around the HPC. The current structure is a challenge, again, as we heard this morning. The HPC focuses on managing staff, Metro staff. We think that there are better ways for you all to function. And to talk about fundraising, working with community, examining best practices, and evaluating what the people of Nashville, what the unhoused population need, and making those recommendations. And one of the big issues is the lack of diversity inside of this body. We're not going to shy away from the hard truths. We're talking to you, we're talking about you, and we're going to talk directly to you about these issues. In a city that is 28% African American, 10% Latino, a 25-member council should have at least 7 African Americans and 9 Latino members, just following, proportions, and it does not. There are only 4 people of color, 3 African Americans, 1 Latino member inside of this body. This body lacks diversity. That's also problematic when you consider how disproportionate African Americans and Latinos are represented inside of the homelessness population itself. Yes, ma'am.
In that community, there's nobody in that community who's stepping up and saying, you know what, we want to be on the Homeless Planning Council. So how do we get more diversity into the group?
So,
Can I?
yeah, go ahead.
So, am I on?
Doesn't sound like it.
You should be.
All right, here I am. We can split the mic. So I think that the currently we have a number of applications that are in through the mayor. I think that there needed to be more outreach done. I think there are a number. I know the nominating committee went to great lengths to add African American communities, but I also think that this board as a group needs to examine its bylaws, which really call for respectful conversation. And we need to get to the point where instead of meetings becoming aggressively contentious, that everybody expresses their opinions and their feelings in a respectful way, so that people who have experienced racial trauma, people who have experienced social trauma, are not triggered within the very meetings that they're attending to care for people who have experienced all of this. And so, once again, I'm going to echo the words of Richard Cho, who is Secretary Fudge's advisor on homelessness, and it is time for all of us to put aside our own differences and our own agendas and decide to work together for the greater good. And I think once you have a committee or council that works that way, it becomes more attractive to speak. I'll be honest, I spoke to a number of people. Some people didn't want to be mentioned by name as having been spoken to because some of the louder voices are intimidating. And so I think it's time for us to make this a safe place for all.
All right. So, and I want to make sure Sam, are you on? Did we lose Sam?
Muted?
Well, they can unmute.
I'm here.
Okay, Sam.
Can you hear me?
Clarify your timing availability. Are you going to be, do you have to cut out at the half hour or in 2 minutes?
Yeah, I have to cut out at the half hour.
Okay, gotcha. So we're going to get to you in a second. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that he didn't have to leave in 2 minutes.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Put this back up so everybody can see this. And actually, Sam, this is you. So the data-driven recommendations around targeting chronic homelessness, prioritizing the needs of chronic homelessness, and making sure that that you're, again, securing the resources that are necessary and that you are helping the most vulnerable. And again, the startling statistics, the dramatic increase in the deaths of the unhoused over the last few years. Again, this body is very well aware of that. It is extraordinary that you all take the time to reflect on that at the beginning of this meeting. Right. Yes. But exactly. Let's move to that piece. And so, Sam, I'm going to turn to you so we can talk about implementing the Housing First model.
Can you see the slide, Sam?
Okay, say that again? Well, I can see the slides. Okay. But I'm not going to follow the slides.
That's fine.
I'm just going to tell you what Housing First is, and you guys follow me because I'm on the phone and it doesn't have access to what the next slide is and so on.
Gotcha.
But just let me start with this, that, I think the reason we even have to take a couple of moments to explain Housing First at all is because it is probably one of the most frequently used terms across all COCs and all applicants, because our friends at HUD at the federal level have really pushed hard to get organizations, COCs, cities and counties and states to adopt this Housing First approach, and have made it a requirement to check the box that you're doing Housing First. And that's about as far as it's gone. There hasn't been additional money. The program has two funding streams, a housing funding stream and a services funding stream. HUD has essentially ignored the services part, and HHS hasn't really moved into that. They have not provided any guidance of how Housing First programs are supposed to be implemented, operated, or what constitutes what we would call Housing First program fidelity. So when you're talking about Housing First in Nashville, it's the same thing as Housing First in Kansas, or the same as Housing First in Austin. So we have this challenge. But here's what we mean in this proposal by Housing First, and it doesn't start with the program model, particularly it starts with the target population. And one of the things that we hope to do is not only explain and implement Housing First, but support the implementation of Housing First across this entire community, which is not a one program approach, but it's a community-wide approach. The reason this has been recommended is because of the analysis of the problems currently faced, as was just described, no movement on the chronic and some of the other issues. But to focus on that in particular, I can tell you that most communities that have either significantly reduced or ended homelessness altogether have started with this issue of addressing the most vulnerable, the chronically homeless. And Nashville is well positioned because of the offer of the 18 housing vouchers by the Housing Authority currently to begin to address that problem significantly, even in the first year. The target population is what Housing First programs are founded on. They look for the most vulnerable, people with complex needs, mental health, addiction, physical health problems, difficult histories, and so on. I think you know the characteristics of many of the people. It's also a values-based approach, and I want to emphasize the fact that there aren't right now, as you've heard and you know, many providers really offering a high-fidelity Housing First program in Nashville. The values I'm talking about are values that have to do with housing offered as a matter of right rather than as something to be earned, a sense of how poverty is understood, whether it's an individual problem or a systemic problem, and so on. So the programs that do best in implementing the approach most effectively are ones that share a value base about human rights. The components of the program are simple. There are two, and they are in housing of any form, whether it's we're using vouchers to rent from community landlords, new units developed from rehab, conversions, all of the different kinds of development options that will be introduced. The immediate solution in terms of addressing chronic homelessness is likely to be new vacancies or renting directly from community landlords. That's available to us right now. We could start doing that right in year one. So immediate access, that could be provided by one agency, and that same agency could provide the support. But the other most important part in terms of getting people access to housing and then supporting them after they're housed is what I'm calling the service component. That's essentially a case management team with additional clinical or other specialty supports that continue to visit people at home as a matter of requirement, not as a matter of option. You know, Housing First is based on client choice, moving at a pace that's comfortable to clients and encouraging choice and direct participation, self-directed treatment, self-determination, all of those leading to better mental health outcomes. But there are limits to choice in Housing First. You have to meet the terms and conditions of the standard lease like everyone else. And if you need support, there's a team that's what the team is for. And you also have to agree to have the team visit at home. This part has actually never been well understood by HUD, nor has it been strongly encouraged. They either make it something mandatory, which feels coercive, or they make it optional, which is actually neglectful. It's an artful relationship with people who are vulnerable, who we've just housed, to make sure they're okay. We must make home visits, and the programs that succeed do, and they do it as frequently as the person needs them. It's not, it's a quick program to describe. I can tell you, it's a difficult program to run. It's really labor-intensive and self-selecting. Only people that really like to work with homeless people stay in Housing First programs because they are very demanding. But when done well, they're very successful. So those are the components: the target population, the values of the program approach, immediate access to housing, and the housing components in different forms. I would say that if you do this well, you should be rightfully expecting I think there's a slide up there showing you right now of something about different cities and how well they've done. I think just
yes, Sam,
underscore the point. Oh, go ahead.
It is up.
No, it's up. I understand.
I'm confirming you.
Yeah. And I'm just saying that I think that this slide underscores the fact that one of the sort of additional reasons for doing Housing First, besides the fact that it's highly effective and addresses your most vulnerable, is that your funding from HUD is tied to addressing chronic homelessness, so that Nashville lags way behind in comparable sized cities in doing that, and then it's hurting you financially because you can't draw down more money for having addressed chronic homelessness, which is their priority target population. So, it's a win-win on many, many sides. Just a couple of more comments about not the program, but the approach and what's proven effective in other places. It's not one agency that's going to solve this. It's a community-wide approach, meaning you should have, over time, a key agency perhaps that's leading the way, but other multiple agency partners adopting the model. And once you begin to address the chronic homelessness with complex needs in a community effectively, it actually leads to a much greater level of system efficiency. People don't languish in shelters or encampments. They go from being in places like that right into homes, which then opens up more shelter beds or more transitional housing beds. Even in your current PSH population, there are people that are living in permanent supportive housing where the services are part and parcel of the building, and they no longer need the services, but they can't afford to move out. So that some of those people, for example, could be on a tenant-based voucher, moved out, making room for those that need those kinds of services that PSH offers, so that it improves system efficiency overall, and programs are then actually being emergency or transitional or fit the match between client needs for services and housing. It's the other part of the system improvement is that, and this is not so much system improvement, but almost a kind of a consensus building in the community. And this is encouraged, and I think quite clearly stated in the proposed plan, that the partnerships needed to successfully implement Housing First as a system-wide approach include municipal and county government. They include the business community. They include representation from the faith community, from police, emergency rooms, courts, district attorneys, and that group, I would call it the community stakeholder group, is the group that has been, that meets, much like this council, looks at the plan for ending homelessness, let's say chronic homelessness over a 3-year period, which I think you can actually achieve given 500 people are chronically homeless. 18 vouchers a month times 12 months is 216 people a year. I mean, all of the parts are actually in place right now in Nashville in a very spectacular way. And I think as people see the reduction of street homelessness, there's more buy-in and there's more consensus and more support for the model. So
Sam,
those are my...
I just want to
interrupt. Yeah, you can say anything. I'm done. Go ahead.
Because at the same time that we are working on housing chronically homeless, I don't think Sam meant to imply that we're just letting everybody else fall into the abyss and become chronically homeless. So there has to be coordinated and interconnected work that's going on to make sure that we do a better job perhaps of even diversion, stopping people from even entering the shelter system. Those that are just require a small short-term rental assistance. I mean, we need to do more strategic targeting of funds to individual needs. So as we're saying this, I want to be clear that nobody believes that if we house all 500 chronically homeless, that there will be an end to homelessness. It is about, and this is where what Andronika was talking about, it's like keeping the connection between affordable housing and homelessness. It's about incentivizing more extremely affordable units. I've met in the last few weeks with a number of developers who are very anxious to start working with us that hadn't been contacted previously. And so we need to get more developers involved in what we're doing. And so just to be clear, this is not housing first only for the chronic. This is starting to prioritize them so that they're not languishing out there. And moving forward. Oh, I'm pretty loud.
Well, but again, we got to go through the system so they can hear us online.
Okay. Oh.
So Sam,
Well, yeah, no, I didn't mean to in any way suggest that this is the only thing we're doing. I was just trying to give a clear presentation of what Housing First typically looks like as a program in a community and as an approach. But it's true that, Housing First has been also very effectively used with families, with young people, and other populations, victims of domestic violence. So it has the capacity for including other populations. And as Tracy said, without figuring out the prevention piece, we'll be in the homelessness ending business forever if we don't figure out the homelessness preventing piece. So I'm happy to take any questions or anything, because I have to jump off a little bit. Yeah.
In a bit. No, thank you, Sam, so much. And so, as Sam mentioned, we have up here, and we zoomed in because this was a problem we had last time. We wanted to make sure people could see this and not squint, just so you can see the difference. In New Orleans, the total allocation is $26 million, right? As compared to Nashville's total allocation is federal funds of $6 million.
This is 2021.
2021. And New Orleans, as a reminder, has less than 400,000 people, 380,000 people. We have about as many homeless as y'all do, a little bit more. And again, this is because of those numbers that we talked about earlier. And so focusing this way could dramatically improve your funding resources. In addition to the commitments that have been made by the administration, the resources you already have, again, this and the things that you heard Angie talk about some of the programs that the Office of Planning is rolling out. Again, you all are well situated to really dramatically change this for the better. It's just there needs to be just some more tweaks that need to happen. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide, as I've zoomed in, so we're going to fix that. There we go. So y'all can see the other slides. And Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're next. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Stacy's next, because we wanted to talk about the standalone office of the Office of Homeless Services. So, Stacy.
All right. We talked about this earlier. Our recommendation is that there is a standalone Office of Homeless Services that reports to the mayor. It incorporates the Metropolitan Homeless Impact Division as well as the collaborative applicant, MDHA. So that is something that will take a fairly significant amount of time, 6 to 9 months, to put in place. There's a lot of things to look at. We need to figure out just the backbones of where certain budget items like HR and things like that will be, and support. We need to figure out a place, because it's obvious that this Office of Homeless Services actually needs an office. There are just so many things that need to come into play. My recommendation is that it is vetted. It is a position that is posted nationally, vetted by Human Resources on a specified group of criteria and skills required for the job. And from that point, appointed by the mayor. I know our esteemed council has put a different bill forward, and so we'll see what happens there. In any case, there needs to be somebody that has access to the mayor and the council in order to be accountable to the mayor, the city council, and the Homeless Planning Council, who actually should be driving performance on all levels. So that's good. And I can tell you that the high-performing cities like Houston and Milwaukee operate that way. Milwaukee, the whole movement that decreased their their population so greatly was led by a city-county employee, and they did a great job in Houston. The mayor has his own office of homeless services, and that office coordinates with the nonprofit lead agency of the COC. So that's.
And then we've got a PowerPoint
about what it will look like.
Yeah, well, what it could look like. All right. Now we're going to move to, oh, no, this is you still too. Then the recommendations are restructuring, I can do this one, restructuring the Homeless Planning Council itself. Again, looking at, to the point earlier, there are recommendations being made, but there are decisions that still need to be addressed when it comes to the Homeless Planning Council. Y'all mentioned the number of members. We are recommending that it should be pared down a little bit. There should be a robust executive committee and core management team, not quite so many committees, making sure that, again, you're looking at things like your bylaws and that everyone is clear about it. And to Stacy's point, this body should be driving these issues and holding everyone accountable and making sure that that it's functioning more like a governance board as opposed to having to do it yourselves. Sometimes because there's not enough resources, there's not enough, there's not a standalone office. Y'all have had to step in sometimes in a way that is not helpful or appropriate and not sustainable is the big thing, right? We heard expressed earlier some, frustration at, is it just going to be us continuing to carry this load by ourselves? And that's exactly right. And that's, we recognize that, and we're recommending that it change, and that there is a more thoughtful way that this body functions, and that you all have some more help, and you all have a clear vision, but you have clearer areas of responsibilities so that you can look at the entire board.
Job.
Yeah.
And once again, with somebody with accountability, authority, and responsibility. Once again, having one leader that is kind of the orchestra leader coordinating all efforts, then you have somebody that is responsible for results. But, the major thing is we need to become performance driven here, and we need to really follow the Rank and Review Committee's recommendations. I know at one point the council overturned a Rank and Review Committee recommendation, which is fairly unprecedented, and that was for sobriety-based beds. So I think everybody needs to get on the same page. And once again, I think this council has been missing the opportunity to be a collective impact group. I would also say that currently in the bylaws and the charter, the agencies of the COC only get to vote on 3 things, which kind of dilutes their power and puts the power in the hands of the council. And so I think it's important that the agencies of the COC are given a greater voice, because they are the ones that are really working tirelessly all the time. And so I know that there's been remarks that this report was targeted at the agencies of the COC. It is not. It is not. It is targeted at MHED and the council. And and the lack of ability to provide the leadership and the direction for performance-based measures. So I just wanted to make that clear.
All right, moving on. And any questions? Because that was the part about this body, so we wanted to make sure. I know, again, we've talked to a lot of you. We haven't talked to everyone. So if you don't feel comfortable saying anything, grab one of us afterwards, and we'll make sure we schedule some time. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
You want to do that, or you want to say something now?
I guess I just don't know, process-wise, do you want me to ask questions now, or
yes.
wait?
Oh, no, we said you could.
Along the way, okay. So I guess most of the questions are about process. And I guess I understand now that this is just phase 1 of a report.
Right.
So do you mind explaining kind of how it's going to work now, what what will phase 2 and whatever look like?
Yeah, I think that this is the appropriate time to do that. We have we've shared the report with our national partners, and we have asked for and received additional assistance from HUD as well to come in and help us do that. But we are talking about developing a work plan for implementation of this report. We are talking about a much larger cohort of people, which will then be broken down into specific areas with appropriate leadership and representation. But instead of it just being the Homeless Planning Council or MHED or MDHA or the mayor's office or the city council, we need to have a broad cross-sector of representation, because at the end of the day, every single citizen of this city is invested or should be invested in ending homelessness or making homelessness rare and brief in Nashville. And they're all our partners because it affects all of us. And so we need to have broad representation. I would like to have more currently homeless people at the table. So when I did a plan for the city of New Orleans 11 years ago, we had a series of 8 meetings over, I think, 4 months, 6 months, and we had attendance of over 80 people at each meeting. We had 30 currently homeless people that actually participated in the process. But then we had specific working groups that actually worked. They met, they had an agenda, they followed the agenda, they worked on the agenda, and they moved things forward. So we are going to start putting that process together now. I mean, we're already doing it, already looking for development partners, trying to get more partnership at the state level, which is truly needed. I mean, I'm going to let Greg talk because it's important, but if your state QAP included PSH or people or affordable housing for extremely low income people, I mean, as Mercedes Marquez, a very wise woman, once told me, at the end of the day, that's the biggest tool you can have in your shed, just a ready supply of affordable housing that's out there. And so we are trying to draw together the people that have been missing for a while. And, you know, there was a report that was released in 2016 that basically said most of these same things. And none of it was implemented except for an increase in rapid rehousing, and that has not really driven the numbers down, and you have lost PSH beds. Your street homeless numbers have gone up, and people are dying.
Okay. So back to this phase. So since we just talked about the HPC, I'm curious about your methodology for collecting the data that was in here.
Good question. Greg?
So, yep, that's exactly where we're going next. You want to ask your question first, or do you want to, you said you're curious.
You want to let him talk and then ask, because you can do either one.
Sure, he can go ahead.
Okay, all right.
I'm happy to speak
we'll come back.
That.
Yeah, we'll come back.
I'm happy to speak to that as well.
Greg? All right, there you go. So folks can see Greg.
Greg, please introduce yourself, because we were so rude we did not introduce you.
No, we did.
We did?
Yeah, we did. But Greg Shin. We did. We introduced him. But go ahead, Greg.
Thank you very much. So as the members of the council have already heard from Sam and Renika and Stacy, and the members of the team here, is that the focus has not been on the longest term homeless people with disabling conditions. And so the trend analysis has been revealed through the HMIS data that we analyzed from 2011 forward. And with not only using the available point-in-time counts and housing inventory counts during that time, we dove into your own HMIS data over 5 years, from 2017 to 2022, and we were able to look at the housing placement rates, the exits from homelessness into the various permanent housing models, and to determine exactly quarter by quarter how many people were achieving housing on a quarterly and then monthly basis over that 5-year period. And if we could move towards the charts, that would be very helpful. If we could move to the data slides now. Yes, right there. Yep. So during that time, we were able to determine that, in fact, the people that have been moving into the permanent supportive housing, that data was missing on at least 15% of these individuals. We don't know their location prior to housing placement. And we also know that a considerable percentage of them were moving from other housing options. They were not literally street or shelter homeless. And therefore, they weren't verified as being eligible for permanent supportive housing in terms of the length of time homeless, the location prior to the moving into the housing, and their disability status. Next slide, please. And the total number of individuals in that particular analysis was 1,008 out of a total of 8,531 housing placements that we looked at over 5 years. And so you can see this is the criteria that we looked at: length of time homeless, the number of placements, and the housing types for rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. You also had a other permanent housing model that you discontinued using during that time, that was permanent housing without services. Okay, the next slide, please. So here are the placement rates by quarter that I was discussing. And if you look at the PSH placement trend on the left, you can see it decreasing quarter over quarter during the 5-year period. And then the rapid rehousing placements, which was the recommendation from Focus Strategies that you did adopt, was to increase rapid rehousing. That increased quarter over quarter. So there were 1,029 permanent supportive housing placements over that 5-year period, and there were 6,756 rapid rehousing placements during that time period. Yet your point-in-time count remains at 1,900, which was essentially the same that the count was in 2011, and your chronic homeless count, as we saw, is still around 500. So your PSH placement rate is dropping quarter over quarter over quarter. In fact, access during this time to permanent supportive housing fell by 77%. PSH production fell by 9%, but access, if you look at quarter by quarter placements, access to permanent supportive housing fell by 77% during this time period, while access to rapid rehousing increased over 600%. Next slide, please. So this is what I was talking about. The decrease of 9% represents a total decrease of 127 beds in your housing inventory count, and your rapid rehousing increased by over 600%, which was an increase of 709 rapid rehousing beds. And that's really fantastic news, but it wasn't having the impact on the point-in-time count or the chronic homeless count that you're looking for. So your decrease of 90 placements per quarter, that's where you started in 2017, decreased to only 20 per quarter into permanent supportive housing. So that is the trend that we need to focus on changing as quickly as we can do it. Next slide, please. So again, here is I have a trend line in here that supports what I'm talking about, and you can see that overall it's relatively flat. You're kind of treading water there. PSH production fell, the chronic homeless count and the PSH inventory is not advancing. And back to what Stacy just said previously, during this whole time, the uses and the sources of the funding have not been allocated correctly, and there's a lot of room for improvement. For instance, the qualified allocation plan from the State Housing Finance Agency, they could prioritize set-asides for permanent supportive housing with all the tax credit production, and that's not even on their radar. There needs to be a lot of advocacy with the State Housing Finance Agency so that they can add incentivized points in their allocation plan to produce permanent supportive housing as a percentage of all the affordable housing that they develop. There's over 10,000 tax credit affordable units in Davidson County, over 10,000. None of them are targeted towards homeless and special needs or below 30% of area median income households. None of them. That needs to be changed at the QAP. A lot of advocacy needs to be done there. That's just one subsidy that we can look at. Next slide, please. So what I have projected, taking into account the past production and the point in time counts and the inflow into homelessness, the inflow into chronic homelessness, and the exits and the rates of return to homelessness with the system performance measures, I have proposed a 9% benchmark for increasing permanent supportive housing. That's 9% year over year. And you are starting from a total PSH bed count right now in 2022, you have 1,223 PSH beds. Not all of them, as you've already heard, not all of them are using a housing first model. They don't have fidelity to housing first. So you need to work on maybe reallocating some of those dollars to programs that really do implement with fidelity to housing first. But assuming that you have 1,223 PSH beds in your inventory today, if you increase 9% annually, you will go up to the 1,333 beds in the first year. You've already heard Sam talk about the 18 housing choice vouchers that are available every single month. You heard about the $20 million in funding that was just approved, and I heard them say that the leveraging was 10 to 1. That means that you have $200 million coming. Those units will come online, and if you have 20% of those units set aside with fidelity to housing first, that would be 160 of those units that would come online that would be produced. If you have 800 units, 20% would be 160, so that can be in part of this forecast, and you can track the forecasting and the benchmark of 9%. Where are we going to get these units year over year over year? So the first year we would go to 1,333, the second year 1,453, and you can see the number of beds, or we would increase by 110, then 120, then 130, then 142, and then 155. I'm suggesting that you need over 650 units of additional PSH on top of your current 1,223. The next slide, please. And so we can see that if you do achieve those benchmarks and you increase from 1,223 to 1,881, your absorption rate to meet the market demand will increase as you continue to operate the 1,223 beds and exits into permanent housing. Those people coming in are prioritized. The units are prioritized to the longest term disabled, chronically homeless population. When those beds are vacated, as Sam suggested, they get refilled by the prioritized chronically homeless individuals every single month, and the new units come online, adding 9% year over year. Your absorption rate will increase year over year over year, and you should be able to achieve functional zero by year 4 of the plan. And so you can see that the orange line is forecasting that you would achieve functional zero and surpass it. And so what that means in the monthly housing placement rate, if you look at what you've been averaging is 16.3 a month, but with the increase of the available inventory by increasing at the 9% rate, your housing inventory count will increase over time to where you will be able to absorb over 82 placements per month. You need to go from 16.3, what you've been averaging now, to 82 placements per month in order to account for the current inflow and to outpace housing placement rates need to outpace inflow. And I want to qualify that by saying, to the extent that you can implement diversion practices like eviction prevention, you can reduce inflow into homelessness, you might be able to exceed functional zero faster than in the forecasting. But the way that the system is currently operating, you will need to go from 16.3 placements a month to over 82 as the available inventory increases, and you will be able to zero out your chronic homeless count in less than 5 years. Next slide, please.
That's the last slide for you, Greg.
Thank you very much. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, we have a question down here.
Can you? Bethany's a mic.
Thanks, Laura. Nice to meet you, Greg. I'm Beth Shin. We share a name, but as far as I know, we're not related. I've never met you before. This may be in the weeds, and maybe we should do some of this offline, but I think you're way underestimating the need. So, 2 slides ago, you had the total supported housing beds going up by... You had the permanent supportive housing beds going up by, 110 in the first year, and you had the number of people who qualify as chronic going down by the exact same number that your permanent supportive housing inventory goes up. But that doesn't account for people becoming qualified as chronically homeless. I hate to call people chronic, but people qualifying for that label. And it doesn't account for the underestimate in the point in time count of folks experiencing chronic homelessness. We did a study years ago in New York where we put out fake homeless plants to see whether they were captured in the point in time count, and we went around the next day to soup kitchens and the like to ask people who were experiencing homelessness where they'd been the night before and whether they could have been counted. We figured in New York City they missed about half of the people who were outdoors on a particular night, and many more in the outer boroughs than in Manhattan, where the streetscapes looks like downtown Nashville, but not the surrounding area. There's also the flow into homelessness. So I think I appreciate all the work you've done, particularly in the analysis of the past plans, but I think we're way underestimating the need going forward. Happy to talk with you about that offline.
Thank you, Beth. And we did chat briefly once before and determined we were not related, so I appreciate that. But I also do respect your work and have read through many of your research publications. And so I agree with you. I am not accounting here I'm using the hard data. If there is additional chronic homeless count that could be revealed that is not in the data, if the data is wrong or if the data is underestimating the count, we could adjust the benchmarks that we need to. However, I want to also point out many people that are currently going into the inventory in the 1223 right now are not really chronically homeless individuals. So if those 1,223 beds were actually going to the correct target population, I think that that could account for some of the factor that you're speaking to right now. If the targeted people that were going into PSH were actually chronically homeless and not coming from housing situations, were not coming from sobriety-based programs and that they're calling permanent supportive housing. So there is a lot of room within the production that I have proposed to account for some of the undercount that you're speaking to. It may not account for all of it, and I'm more than happy to talk with you about this offline, and we could adjust these projections as we need to. But let me say, also, even at the acceleration rate that I am forecasting, Nashville has never been able to achieve PSH production at the level that I'm forecasting. If you're able to achieve that 9% benchmark, you would be producing PSH at a rate far beyond anything that you have ever been able to do so far. So, as I said, you need to look at all sources of possible funding and development. It can be the housing choice vouchers, it can be project-based vouchers, it can be into public housing that currently exists, it can be adaptive reuse or conversion of existing buildings that were never intended to be housing, it could be new construction, it can be acquisition and rehabilitation. We want to look at production across the board and determine what are the sources and then the uses of the funding and track all of those over time when we determine where are we going to capture. And one final response is that I am not here looking at the overall affordable housing demand in Nashville and Davidson County. I'm simply looking at PSH bed production. The overall housing, you need to add another 80% for Fidelity to Housing First. The overall affordable housing production should be dramatically increasing at the same time. As I said, there's 10,000 LIHTC units, and none of them are targeted to this population. So there is tons of room to advance affordable housing in the market, and Stacy already has developers at the table. So we want to look at all sources and uses, and we want to track those outcomes as we move forward with good data quality and measuring the data quality and making sure that everybody's entering the accurate information into HMIS. So thank you for your question.
We have another question.
Thank you. I have a couple questions actually, and I'm going to say them quickly to be mindful of time as our 30 minutes has already been cut into. As far as data, it was stated a couple weeks ago when this was presented to council that the biggest challenge of our data was the gaps of unknown or missing information. I'm curious, was that looked at as a whole from 2017 to 22, or did you look to see if those gaps increased, decreased, or stayed stagnant across time?
Greg?
We did look at it as a whole related to the 8,531 people that were moved into the 3 different permanent housing types. And so that the missing data that we saw there was in the range of 15 to 16%. And that is because incomplete information is entered into HMIS. That's why I'm proposing the data quality committee that would oversee and make sure that the error rate for entries into HMIS should be minimal or non-existent. No housing placements should be entered into HMIS with data that is missing.
Right. So if I'm understanding correctly, then there was no analysis done to look to see if data errors had improved over time as the work of the community to train on HMIS to improve our data collection and quality was done. It was just looked at one whole period of time versus looking at the work that's been done over time. Is that correct?
Yes, I do believe, though, that it has been fairly consistent that the error rate is still relatively high. I think that we might be able to do even more detailed analysis with the data that we already have, as you're suggesting. But the the fairly large missing data element continues to happen now.
I think it would be great if we did a deeper analysis before we state that it is still a problem, that it's still high. I was also wondering, this report was released to the Tennessean and then presented to the council and then was held before being sent to the community, as we were told it was being vetted by other national leaders for accuracy, best practice, proper citation, and HUD alignment. Who were those other national leaders and members of HUD that vetted this?
I sent it to I sent it to the USICH, and I sent it to our HUD TA team.
Our HUD TA as in Melissa McKell. So
our
which HUD
HUD
TA team?
as in Darlene Matthews and Karen Brown with Cloudburst.
So Nashville's HUD TA did not weigh in on this.
Those are Nashville's HUD TA as well.
But so the HUD TA that's working with the community providers, Melissa and Heather, did not weigh in on this. Is that correct? Okay. It was definitely disappointing to see that there was no mention of the work that the community has been doing, no mention of the by name list development, no mention of coordinated entry. I support many of the recommendations that are in this report. Many of these recommendations are items that the community has been voicing a need for years. We stood outside this very building and as a body, and we asked for an Office of Homelessness well before this report was drafted. And rather than use this report to reinforce the needs asked for and the hard work the community has done, it's been used to tear down our efforts and question our will to end homelessness. These hurtful statements won't deter us in our work or willingness to collaborate, but I hope in the future we can invest the $500,000 in solutions to end homelessness and collaborate with our Nashville community of experts. Thank you.
Great, and I appreciate that. We cannot make comment on how it was released. That was not, Yeah, so, but I do want to point out that we did make point of discussing the by name list, especially the fact that people seem to think the list goes in order, and that's not the way that it should be. And so I did acknowledge the hard work that the agencies have done. And I understand that you stood outside of this building, but as a planning council, you had the will to get some of this done and were unable to implement it.
Is this thing on? Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I'm just going to reiterate that these hurtful statements won't deter us in our work or willingness to collaborate. The problem has never been this community's will to end homelessness. So thank you.
Freddie, you had a comment?
Yeah, a couple quick things. One, I just want to make a couple suggested edits. I think a lot of people are looking to this report as, making an effort to be authoritative in this. So one, the first is there's at least one reference to the Homeless Planning Council, and I think we ought to make sure we're getting the names of the organizations correct, so that there at least one spot needs to be corrected to the Homelessness Planning Council. There are also a couple references to the Tennessee Housing Corporation. I'm assuming those are supposed to be the Tennessee Housing Development Agency, but it wasn't 100% clear because one of them is referenced right next to where THDA is. There's also a reference to an office I'm not familiar with, which is the Tennessee Office of Behavioral Health. I think that's supposed to be the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, but again, it wasn't 100% clear. So I just wanted to raise those three things as something that I think needs some scrubbing on that.
Thank you for helping us correct those typos.
Thank you.
And questions, Stacey, I know you've spoken and the report kind of speaks to this, where there are existing strengths in alignment and opportunities to increase alignment. I think as we move toward the consensus that I think is here, that a standalone office is a good idea, if the Planning Council or one of its committees isn't involved in the director selection process for a standalone office, I guess my question is how are we going to achieve the goal of increased alignment among the mayor's office? Because among the mayor's office, Metro Council, Planning Council, and the new standalone office. Until this report over the past year, what we've seen is alignment among Metro Social Services, MHID, and the mayor's office, and less with the Metro Council and Planning Council. And I'm interested in reversing that trend. And I think a lot of people would like to see full alignment, but I don't know how we do that if we continue to operate in a structure where all of the accountability flows only one way.
I'm glad that you actually brought that up because there's already a search committee. And there's 3 homeless planning council seats on it. There should be seats from the business community. There should be seats from other partners on that, and seats from the city council and the mayor's office to make sure that it is totally inclusive. So I agree with you 100%.
And I guess, again, I don't know who selected the members of that search committee or structured it, but it wasn't this body, right? It wasn't the planning council.
It was in conversation with this body. It was taken to the executive committee, and then we discussed it in planning council.
Okay.
Like 2 months ago.
All right, then we'll revisit that with as the bill gets to its final spot. But I just want to make sure that we're anchored around alignment as we go forward. Then the one other thing I wanted to bring up that's in here as a recommendation is several people, including our outgoing low barrier housing collective coordinator, have recommended transitioning the program to an anchor nonprofit. The report seems to assume that that function should stay within MHID or the new office. I don't know if there's a comment on the appropriate location for that program.
I think that we should be open to all comers, but I would say that if a nonprofit were to do that, then they would certainly end up taking on the cost of staffing it, or if we were to put that out there for partnership, that I would say things need to be more competitive based on past performance, history with certain populations, and leverage. Because at the end of the day, there is no government, including the federal government, that can afford to pay for all of this. And so one of the big recommendations of the report, and something that, the council and all of our partners can be involved in, is bringing in new funding sources, braiding streams, and making sure that, once again, we're targeting those resources as much as possible. But to me, leverage is always important. When you're going to put something out for a competitive grant or low-income loan or whatever, you need to see what is the bang that we're getting collectively for the buck. How well is it leveraged? How experienced is that agency that's applying at doing everything that's required? And how long have they been doing it? So that's my thought. But I think that all of this we need to have more community discussions and include more than just this body. Every agency of the COC needs to have a voice. And so I am saying that I want to give them more voice and bring more community to the table.
So I know we're running low on time. What I'd like to propose is additional questions be shared with Stacy and Andronika. Can we share an email or what have you for questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We'll do that. And then we have one other burning agenda item on the list.
Can I make one suggestion, just so everybody, including the agencies of the COC that are not represented on the council, can have information? Is that all of the questions post to MHED's website? This is what I used to do at the state, so that everybody had equal information. Have all of the questions post to MHED's website, and then they will be answered on there so that they are public knowledge.
And then I think what would be helpful is to continue this conversation at the next council, because what I hear, and I mean, the main question I have is, how do we take these recommendations into next steps, right? Because not a ton of this is new information. This is all things that we've known for years, and I think the will is there, the agreement is there. It's the ability as a community to take this and make it actionable and see some progress. So I think we'll have a lot more buy-in as we see what those next steps look like and participate in that conversation. All right. Sheila, okay, sure.
Hi. So as I understand it, this isn't for the report, this is for the body. We're losing you after today, and we have no leadership. Is that?
Well, you have an executive committee.
Executive committee.
Pardon?
Aside from the executive.
Yeah, you have an executive committee and a vice chair and other members that will continue on. I'm taking an action to triple check what the process is. This has happened before, where we've had a chair roll off the council and roll off the executive, that role at the same time. But how that played out exactly, I want to triple check, but my understanding is the executive committee will stay in place until the new one is voted in. Oh, yes, we've got.
Evaluate the bylaws, but typically.
Yeah, Mike. You need a mic.
Yeah, Mike. Should be.
I believe it's live. We're going to evaluate the bylaws. But typically, there are provisions that until the successors are appointed, persons may continue to serve in their capacity, particularly the chair, so that you do not lose.
So maybe you guys will see me next month. Who knows?
That's what my question was. Like, I mean, I'm just nervous because we've had a lot of change in leadership, and with this report out and the analysis and what that means for the COC and electing, I just feel safe with you staying until we have at least identified someone to take the position.
I won't leave you hanging, Sheila. And that does beg a question. I know Ingrid has an update from the nominating committee, but one of the options, or one of the things that we could, consider, and it's really not up to us to decide, it's the COC, but, does it make sense for there to be, the turnover of the council right now, or do we ask the COC to consider pushing that vote back, 2-3 months, so that this council can let all the dust settle, work through next steps, governance, et cetera, and then that, and then we turn over in September or something. But that's not for us to decide. That's for the COC to vote on and decide.
Especially if we decide to reduce the numbers, us electing new members in 3 months from now, deciding we don't need them. I mean, it's just a lot.
All right, Ingrid, I'm gonna just take some guesses at what that microphone is, but if you want to just keep talking. Oh, wait, I think I know which one it is.
Housing and homelessness.
Yay.
That was the one. I know. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see your faces. My name is Ingrid McIntyre. I'm the chair of nominations, and just wanted to let you all know that we have an amazing slate that we've worked very hard to pull together, and we will be electing folks for this new round for the new year next week at our COC meeting. So hopefully everybody can be there on Thursday at 10. Is that right? I think it's Thursday at 10. Anyone? Susie's not here. She keeps me in the bumpers.
April's saying yes. It's
okay,
Thursday
that's right.
at 10.
Thursday at 10 at Park Center if we're in the same space. April just said 10. Is it 10 or 10:30, April? Okay, anyway, we have a fantastic slate. We also, we have not, and I'm just going to use this time since, I don't know, because here I am. We have not heard, we do have recommendations to the mayor for who, I'm sorry? We haven't talked, so I'm not sure how you have those, but it's okay if you do.
Oh, April had them.
Hold on. There you go.
Fine. I made it part of my report.
So I'll just go ahead and say it in public so that it can be in public. So the nominations would like to recommend Laura Bermudez and Commander Ricky Bearden. is that his name? Ricky Bearden? Sorry, I don't have my notes with me. To be nominated or appointed by the mayor. We know that we have some difficult times sometimes electing people from like the police department. And we feel like it would be a good idea to have that liaison. So we thought it might be a great idea for the mayor to appoint. I talked to Chief Drake, and that was his recommendation as an appointee to the mayor. So from the nominations, we would like, the mayor has 2 spots, and Laura, thank you for being willing to be reappointed. We think that institutional knowledge is important, and then also for Ricky Bearden, and then you all will be electing several more members to the group next week. So thank you so much. You will receive those bios hopefully before the meeting. We don't quite have all of them yet, but hopefully we'll get the last one. Yes, Wendell.
Wendell, go ahead.
I can't hear you.
What about members already appointed by?
The mayor, this mayor appointed 4 white men last time that they were appointed by the mayor. So, and 2 of them are rolling off. Not 2 white men, 2 people who the former mayor had appointed are rolling off, and so we want to replace. You're fine. If we haven't talked to you, you're fine. So, so that's why these 2 people we would like to recommend. Carrie. Can you?
Is my microphone on? Thank you. As the chair of nominations, did anyone speak to you in regards to this report?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Awesome. I look forward to seeing you guys next week so that we can vote our new members on.
Yeah.
One other solution, not to replace you necessarily, but you do have a vice chair that steps into the role of the chair whenever the chair is unavailable. So you have 2 solutions. You will not be absent someone to lead.
So more to come. Yeah, again, one of the options that the COC can discuss next month is whether they would like to delay by a month, 2 months, what have you, the turnover of the planning council to keep a little stability in that institutional knowledge. But that's really up to them or us, anybody who's there to vote, to say yes or no to that. And if the answer is no, we want to go ahead and turn it over, then we've got a great slate. And I do want to say thank you so much to the nominating committee. I know you guys worked your butts off on this. So,
sorry, let me just call those folks out. Sorry that I didn't do that, or call them in or whatever. Want to thank April for sitting in on us with us as a staff person. Bill Friskus Warren was here. He just left. Jessica Hoke and Deirdre Childress, and I think that's it. So really thankful for that group of people for working really hard.
All right, thank you all. I've captured a couple follow-ups. I don't want to leave you guys without that information. So know that, we'll confirm kind of the process between now and July. Encourage you all to attend the next COC meeting and participate in the discussion around the Planning Council. And then we'll have Stacy and Andronika and others back for continued conversation so that we can move forward into action. I think we know what we need to do. It's just a matter of figuring out how we're going to do it and start getting to work. So,
Laura?
April, yes.
Continue working, not start getting to work. Thank you.
Yes. Validation tickets are on the table. Thank you. For anybody who parked here, the validation tickets are on the table out back, so don't forget to grab one, and then you give that to the attendant when you're driving out. Any last questions? Yes. Donna.
Hi, thank you. This is actually not a question, but a comment. I want to thank folks for using microphones. As a person representing people with disabilities, oftentimes people who may be hard of hearing, who do not want to disclose a disability, are forced to because they can't hear. So thank you very much.
Thank you for calling that out, Donna. I can't hear out of my left ear, so the microphones are awesome. Okay, well, I know we are over time. Thank you all again. Appreciate your passion, your work, your participation, and maybe I'll see you in July. Maybe I won't. We'll see. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.